Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to another awesome weekly market forecast with me, T.Mayne, and today we're gonna go through 6 different pairs: the DXY, Aussie CAD, Aussie Swiss franc, Aussie dollar, New Zealand dollar JPY, and USD ZAR. So you guys can see we've got 5 currency pairs and obviously the DXY. So we'll start off with the DXY and have a look at what we have here on the 4-hour. So guys, looking at the DXY from the 4-hour, what we have here is some sort of an expanding structure. If we observe the nature of this expanding structure, we can see that we are consistently creating those higher highs and higher lows. So we're making a move to the upside in some sort of an expanding structure. So taking a look at our important resistance areas within the structure, we have our first touch here, we have our second touch. We can observe that the market is currently at the third touch of this expanding structure, talking about our dynamic resistance in form of this ascending trend line. So looking at things, guys, because we're at resistance here on the 4-hour, we're going to be focusing, guys, on those bearish buy setups. But one thing to talk about is the nature of this price action. We can see that we've been very impulsive to the upside towards this area where we're looking for those sell biased setups. So what we're going to be waiting for is for this market to show signs of exhaustion, either in the form of some sort of a reversal structure or for the market to then start to ascend. Either way, we're looking for some bearish bias structure, guys, that will give us reason to start looking for our sell biased setups. So that's exactly what we're going to look for on the DXY, guys. Over the course of next week, we're going to wait for structure to show us, guys, signs of reversal for some downside momentum, and we're going to be validating our directional bias once we break below these important resistance areas. Once we close below, on a 4-hour perspective, below these support or rather previous resistance areas, that will confirm this bearish bias, guys, and we will then start to look for those continuation structures all the way to the downside. So bearish bias, guys, for us over the course of next week, we're gonna wait for structure to align with our bearish bias before we jump into the market. Now going into Aussie CAD, guys, we're gonna have a look at Aussie CAD from a 4-hourly perspective, and what we can see, guys, here on the 4-hour is this market that has been coming from the downside, or rather from the top side. We've been seeing this market correcting to the downside. We've then seen a nice explosive move to the upside, violating a lot of resistance along the way. So we're seeing some beautiful signs of strength, guys, from Aussie CAD to the upside, and we've seen some nice higher time frame momentum destroying a lot of swing highs that we've seen here formed in the past. So guys, this market has given us a beautiful sign of strength, breaking above a nice important resistance area. Thereafter, we've seen this market start to correct towards the downside. Now, because we've seen some nice momentum to the upside recently, what we will be looking for from this market, guys, is for some continuation of this bullish momentum. Regardless of how this setup plays out, guys, we're going to be looking most recently here at the structure. We had a nice close Friday evening, nice 4-hour bullish pin bar, or rather bearish pin bar, but we see a nice bullish reaction because the pin is obviously at the bottom. So we're expecting, guys, over the course of next week, if this price does not pull lower and instead we break above this resistance area, what we will be waiting for is for price to confirm our directional bias in form of some sort of a continuation structure. As long as we violate both our resistance trend line and as well as our previous resistance that will function as support, we will then start to look for bullish biased setups. So guys, we're gonna be bullish over the course of next week, guys, on Aussie CAD, looking for some bullish bias setups, waiting for price to break above our resistance areas, treat them as support, or either pull lower into our support structures and then obviously give us that reversal structure. Regardless, we're looking for some bullish momentum based off this previous momentum that we've seen coming into the market roundabout, when was this? Last month in August. So we're looking at that, guys, on Aussie CAD, some bullish bias price action. Let's go into Aussie Swiss franc and see what we have from a 4-hourly perspective. So guys, looking at this market, we've seen, or rather what we've spoken about previously, is this nice bullish momentum. Let's just get this drawing tool and speak about this nice momentum that we have here. So from these areas here, we've seen some nice momentum to the upside, breaking above our previous resistance areas over there, and thereafter we've seen this market correcting to the downside, which we were looking for some bullish momentum. But one thing we can observe about the nature of this price action, if we just look at the most recent structure, we've seen our resistance areas, market establishing some support, new resistance, new support. So looking at this structure, guys, what we can see is just our market basically creating resistance, support, and then creating structure within those important key areas. So what we're going to be doing is treating this market like a range, because we observe that price action is moving sideways and is stuck within this important support area and this important resistance. So we were looking for those bullish bias setups, but because of this change in the nature of the price action, what we will be doing is isolating those bearish biased setups. So we're going to be looking for prices to come into these important resistance areas, treating this like a range, looking for selling probabilities from the high of the range for some downside momentum. So what we will be waiting for over the course of next week, guys, is for this market to violate these highs, obviously give us a nice reversal structure at these levels here. Once we see breaks of structure in our direction, we then begin to look for those reduced risk entries for our short setups, all the way at least targeting our support structures over there. So looking at the nature of price action, guys, it looks like we're not ready yet to push to the upside nice and impulsively. If we do, guys, we will let the setup go, because we don't need to be involved in every single move. What we really need to be in the markets is reactive to the price action, trading what we see and not what we think. So adapting to what the market is showing us at the current point in time, we're also going to be observing for those sell biased setups. So that's Aussie Swiss franc, guys. Let's go on to Aussie dollar and have a look at what the structure looks like from a 4-hourly perspective, or rather we are also looking at some daily structure as well. So what we can see is our previous resistance areas over here. Let's just get this drawing tool. Previous resistance areas at this area here being violated nice and impulsively, price giving us beautiful momentum to the upside, thereafter entering some sort of a corrective descent. So we can see prices correcting to the downside, creating those support structures, and then obviously violating them. So what we're looking at, guys, is some bullish bias price action, hoping to trade in the direction of this momentum, obviously breaking out of this corrective structure to the upside. So that's exactly what we'll be looking at over the course of next week, guys. Bullish bias price action on AUDUSD, waiting for price action, guys, to give us some bullish biased setups. Whether we break outside of the structure or whether we come down to buy low, retesting previous support structures that were violated first before shooting to the upside, guys, we're gonna be focused on those bullish bias setups for AUDUSD over the course of next week. Whether we manage to get this nice beautiful buy down low, or we get a reduced risk entry after price has violated our resistance trend line, we will be focused on those bullish bias setups, expecting this momentum here that we've seen on our left hand side carrying out and completing our structure on our right, hopefully pushing us all the way to the 90% rule of the structure. So we're going to be looking at that bullish bias price action over the course of next week on AUDUSD. Let's go on to New Zealand dollar JPY and see what it has for us over the course of next week. So looking at the structure here on New Zealand dollar JPY, guys, what we do see is beautiful bullish momentum over here. Let's zoom in a bit and get this drawing tool. Some beautiful bullish momentum, guys, here on our left hand side, breaking above previous resistance areas, showing us buyers are currently in the market. What we've then seen is prices taking a long time to make its descent, giving us some bullish reaction from these structural, or rather this support area down here. So what we're going to be looking for, guys, over the course of next week is hopefully for price to kind of continue this bullish momentum that we've seen here, obviously giving us some bullish bias price action over here before we see the next upside momentum. So what we'll be looking at closely on the 4-hour is looking at the way that structure is developing, expecting that maybe price wants to come down one more time, take out these lower structures here and give us a lower buy. So what we'll be waiting for over the course of next week is for price to give us one more push to the downside, and then we'll be waiting for price to break back above our structure, obviously give us a nice retest of the structure, and then we are looking for those reduced risk entries. If we see the nature of price action changing and we see prices beginning to impulse to the upside, What we will then obviously do is look for those continuation structures that might form before we see a nice break of this trend line. So nonetheless, guys, we're looking to trade some bullish momentum on New Zealand dollar JPY over the course of next week, hoping to see this low buy form. Obviously, that kind of a buy will give us the best risk to reward ratios and as well as greater probabilities after we've seen previous lower structures being taken out. So hopefully we see this beautiful picture perfect setup forming over the course of next week. But otherwise, guys, we need to be reactive to the market price action and obviously just trade what we see and obviously look for setups that align with our higher time frame bias. So looking at our final pair, USDZAR, let's see what we have from a 4-hourly perspective. So guys, from a 4-hourly perspective, what we've seen is something sort of similar to the dollar index in terms of our ascending structure. So we've seen this market ascending, we've seen some nice downside momentum, and obviously within this downside momentum we've seen markets creating a new lower low. So we've seen markets breaking previous support structures, obviously showing us that yes, sellers are currently in the market. They have been able to violate previous areas where we've seen buying momentum coming out of. So looking at the nature of how things are going, guys, and just trading the structure as it's developing, what we are seeing here is some sort of ascending structure. So taking into account what's happened over the course of last week, what we've seen is this ascending structure now finally being violated, prices breaking and closing below that ascending structure. So we've seen the sell side momentum coming in over the course of last week, and what we'll be looking for over the course of next week is for the continuation of this momentum to the downside. So if we have a look at what's been going on here on a smaller time frame, we do see some sort of a reversal structure. So first of all, what we are seeing is prices pushing to the upside nice and impulsively and then beginning to decelerate by creating this ascending structure. We then see prices failing to create a high by then creating a new lower high, and then we see our first break of structure to the downside. So we're seeing prices on a lower time frame beginning to reverse from this area over here, also managing to break our 4-hour support trend line. So what we'll be waiting for over the course of next week is hopefully for price to come and retest our previous support structures as resistance and then obviously give us some sell side momentum. So we'll be focused on some bearish bias setups. Regardless of how price gives us those bearish bias setups, we will be waiting for price to show us some sell side momentum on USDZAR. Guys, we've reached the end of this week's weekly analysis. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed it and received the value that was intended for you. If you have learned something from today's weekly analysis, please drop a like on this video. Otherwise, if it's your first time on the channel, definitely do subscribe. I will appreciate it. This is T.Mayne, your FX Chaser's mentor. I will see you guys in our future videos. Cheers.